So now we have the brush cursor ready, and we're going to animate it drawing the stick figure. Let's move the cursor about where we want to start drawing. Then I'm going to make a new layer, and let's start naming the layers too. This one is the cursor, and we'll call this one GUI, and this one the BG. Then we'll call the first one stick figure. So let's make a rough stick figure with our size 10 brush. We want to make sure we have object drawing mode turned on over here. That way each stroke will be a separate object that we can move around. We have to decide how big we want to make it. Okay, that's going to be our stick figure. Let's put it right in the center. Then we're going to simulate the lines drawing in before we worry about animating the cursor. Let's make it a symbol called stick figure draw. Now inside the symbol, let's do distribute to layers to get each stroke on its own layer. Delete the empty layers. And then how long should the drawing take? Let's see. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4. So it's about 3.5 seconds. Add frames to extend the timeline, and we're going to start with the head and work our way down. So let's put the layers in order on the timeline. And then to simulate it being drawn, we're going to go backwards and erase it incrementally. Let's start from the bottom and work our way up. We're going to hide everything else and use the eraser tool. Then I'm going to use F6 to make new keyframes, erasing bit by bit as I go. Then the next one. Notice I start erasing little bits, gradually erase more towards the middle, and then get closer together again towards the end. That will give the stroke the right speed as it's drawn in. So I'll just keep going for all these strokes. For the head, I'll start at the top, and it's important to make the ends of the stroke circular. Then same thing, start small, get bigger, then small again. So now what we need to do is reverse all our keyframes. Select them all, go to Modify, Timeline, Reverse Frames. And there, looks like it worked perfectly. So I'm going to just delete all these empty frames. We're going to need pauses between the strokes when the cursor moves between them, but we're going to control that with the looping settings for the symbol on the main timeline. So now for the brush cursor, I'll have an extra frame where it's filled in black. So I'll make a frame underneath, copy the circle, and fill it black. Then we'll use that as the stroke is being drawn to cover the flat end. And of course we want the cursor layer above the stick figure layer. So in the Properties window, let's set the looping setting for the cursor to single frame, so we can control the state it's in. Then let's add the tweens for our cursor motion. The first is classic ease in, then classic ease out. And make sure all those keys have the looping set to single frame. Actually, let's not go all the way directly to the start of the drawing. Let's add a step before that. Let's have it move here, add some keyframes, and let's start the actual drawing on this frame. Let's position the cursor where the drawing starts. Add some more frames to the timeline, tween this and make it ease in and out quad. Then when the drawing starts, we switch the cursor to frame 2 so it's black. Then I'm going to use F6 again to add keyframes and move the cursor to match the stroke on each frame. There we go. Now on the stick figure symbol, we'll set the looping to single frame so it doesn't keep going yet. We'll need to move the cursor. I'll switch it back to frame 1. I'll make a new keyframe and move the cursor to the start of the next stroke. Let's add a key to the stick figure and set its looping back to loop so we can see it draw. And move the cursor to the start of that stroke. Then new key, cursor to frame 2. Line up our keys. And just like before, use F6 to make keyframes and position the cursor. So that's done. Now we just need to repeat the process for the rest of the strokes. We need to animate the cursor moving to the start of the next arm. Let's find the exact frame where it ends. I need to hide the cursor. Okay, this is it. I'll add a keyframe and set the stick figure's looping to single frame so it holds on this frame. Unhide the cursor and set it to frame 1 where it doesn't have the black fill. Set the next keyframe and position the cursor. We'll go back and add a tween there later. Add some more frames to the timeline and make a key where we'll set the stick figure back to loop so it will keep playing. Now we can find the exact starting point and move the cursor there. And we set it back to frame 2 so it's filled in. And add keyframes and reposition the cursor as the stroke is drawn. And now we just need to keep going, repeating that same process. Oops, looks like the next leg starts drawing in before this one finishes. I'll just go inside the symbol and move the frames so they don't overlap. I'm also going to start adding the tweens for the cursor moves so I can see them as I go. And then I'm going to move the cursor off to the side to finish up. So that is the stick figure being drawn. The next step in the movie is the animator is going to turn the stick figure into a symbol, so we will animate that process in the next video.